Today is the 7th of July 2025. For many of you, it might feel like just another summer day. Perhaps you're heading to school, meeting up with mates, or just scrolling through your phone. But for London, and for the whole of the UK, this date holds a heavy weight. 20 years ago today, an event unfolded that changed our country forever. It's a story of immense sadness, but it's also a story of incredible strength and unity. It's crucial that we talk about it, especially for those of you who weren't born yet or were too young to remember. Understanding our past is the only way we can truly understand the world we live in now. You might wonder why we should dredge up painful memories. It's a fair question. Why look back at something so dark? The simple answer is because history, even the most difficult parts of it, has lessons to teach us. It shapes our communities, our laws, and even how we see each other. The events of 7th July 2005 are a part of our collective story. Forgetting them would mean forgetting the 52 innocent people who lost their lives. It would mean ignoring the courage of the first responders and the ordinary Londoners who rushed to help. It's about respect, it's about learning, and it's about making sure we build a better, safer future. For people your age, the world has always had the shadow of terrorism. You've grown up with security checks at airports and discussions about online radicalization. But there was a time when an attack on home soil on this scale felt unthinkable to many. The 7/7 bombings brought that terrifying reality right into the heart of London, onto the very tubes and buses that people used every single day to get to work or to college. It shattered a sense of safety that many took for granted. By understanding what happened, you can better grasp the context of the world you've inherited and the importance of fighting against hatred and division. So this isn't just a history lesson. It's an invitation to understand, to empathize, and to remember. Over the next few sections, we're going to walk through what happened on that day 20 years ago. We'll talk about the attacks, the immediate impact, and the people whose lives were changed in an instant. We will also look at how London healed and how we continue to honor the victims today. It's a heavy topic, I know, but it's an important one. It's a story that belongs to all of us, and it's one that deserves to be told with care and with respect. Let's rewind to the morning of Thursday, 7th July 2005. It started like any other summer day in London. The city was buzzing with energy. People were excited because London had just won the bid to host the 2012 Olympic Games the day before. There was a real sense of optimism in the air. Millions of commuters were making their way into the city for work, squeezing onto packed tube trains and red double-decker buses. It was the familiar routine of the morning rush hour. No one had any idea that in just a few moments this ordinary day would descend into chaos and tragedy, orchestrated by a small group of extremists. The plan was cruel and calculated. 4 men, homegrown terrorists who had been radicalized, traveled to London with the sole purpose of causing maximum death and destruction. They carried backpacks filled with homemade bombs. Their targets were the arteries of the city, the public transport network that millions of Londoners relied on. They aimed to strike when the system was at its busiest, to inflict the most harm on innocent civilians. These were people from all walks of life. Office workers, students, tourists, parents, all just going about their day, completely unaware of the danger that was traveling alongside them. The attackers split up, each heading towards a different part of the transport network. 3 of them went down into the London Underground, the oldest subway system in the world, known to everyone as the Tube. They boarded separate trains on 3 of the busiest lines, the Circle Line and the Piccadilly Line. The 4th attacker boarded a double-decker bus. Their actions were coordinated, designed to create widespread panic and overwhelm the city's emergency services. They were about to unleash a wave of terror that would rip through the heart of the capital and send shockwaves across the globe. What makes this so chilling is the normality of it all. The bombers looked just like anyone else on their way to work. They blended into the crowds, carrying their deadly cargo in plain sight. They were targeting the very essence of London life, the multicultural, bustling, everyday experience of sharing public space. The attack wasn't just on trains and a bus. It was an attack on a way of life. It was an attempt to sow fear and division in one of the world's most diverse cities. and for a few terrifying hours, it felt like they might succeed. The horror began at 8:50 in the morning. In the space of less than 1 minute, 3 explosions tore through the London Underground system. The bombs were detonated almost simultaneously, deep beneath the city's streets. The first one went off on a Circle Line train travelling between Liverpool Street and Aldgate stations. Seconds later, another bomb exploded on a second Circle Line train at Edgware Road. At the same time, a third device was detonated on a Piccadilly Line train, which was travelling in a deep-level tunnel between King's Cross and Russell Square. The coordinated nature of these blasts was designed for maximum impact, throwing the transport network into complete disarray. Down in the dark, smoky tunnels, there was utter confusion and terror. The explosions ripped through the carriages, turning everyday objects into deadly shrapnel. Survivors described a sudden deafening bang, a flash of light, and then complete darkness. The trains ground to a halt, filled with smoke, dust, and the cries of the injured. People were trapped hundreds of feet underground with no idea what had happened. Was it a power surge? A derailment? In those first few minutes, nobody knew it was a deliberate attack. They only knew they were in a terrifying, life-threatening situation. Above ground, news began to trickle out, but it was patchy and confusing. Initial reports spoke of a power failure across the tube network, but as emergency services raced to the scenes, the true and horrifying picture started to emerge. Firefighters, police officers, and paramedics descended into the tunnels, facing incredible danger to reach the victims. They worked in pitch-black, smoke-filled conditions, navigating debris and wreckage to provide aid and evacuate the injured. The scale of the incident was massive, stretching the city's emergency response to its absolute limit as they tried to manage 3 major incidents at once. Just as the city was beginning to grapple with the chaos on the underground, the 4th and final attack took place. At 9:47 in the morning, almost an hour after the tube bombings, an explosion ripped through the top deck of a number 30 double-decker bus in Tavistock Square. The bus was packed with people, many of whom had been diverted from the tube network because of the earlier disruption. This final blast confirmed everyone's worst fears. This was a coordinated terrorist attack. London was under siege. The city that had been celebrating just 24 hours earlier was now a scene of carnage and fear. In the wake of the 4 explosions, central London came to a standstill. The entire tube network was shut down, and bus services in the city centre were suspended. This left hundreds of thousands of people stranded, trying to make sense of what was happening. Phone networks became jammed, as everyone desperately tried to contact their loved ones to let them know they were safe, or to check on family and friends who might have been travelling through the affected areas. A sense of unease and fear hung heavy in the air. The familiar sounds of the city were replaced by the constant wail of sirens. The visual landscape of London changed in an instant. Streets were filled with streams of people walking home, a silent, surreal exodus from the city centre. You saw office workers in suits, tourists with maps, all walking for miles, their faces etched with shock and worry. Police cordons went up around the blast sites, and the city's hospitals declared a major incident, preparing for a massive influx of casualties. News channels broadcast rolling coverage, showing harrowing images of injured survivors, their faces blackened with soot, being led away from the scenes by emergency workers. The world watched on, horrified. The response from London's emergency services was nothing short of heroic. Paramedics, firefighters, and police officers ran towards danger without a second thought. They faced scenes of unimaginable horror, especially in the deep, cramped tube tunnels. Doctors and nurses worked tirelessly in hospitals across the capital, treating hundreds of injured people with everything from minor wounds to life-changing injuries. These were ordinary people who, on that day, had to do extraordinary things. Their bravery and professionalism in the face of such chaos saved countless lives and became a defining feature of the day. For those at home or at work, glued to their televisions and radios, it was a day of profound shock and anxiety. The attacks felt personal. These were our trains, our buses, our streets. The randomness of it was terrifying, The victims were simply people in the wrong place at the wrong time. The initial shock soon gave way to a mix of anger, grief, and a grim determination not to be beaten. As the day wore on, Londoners began to show their resilience. Stories emerged of strangers helping each other, of people opening their homes, and of a city refusing to be cowed by terror. The attacks of 7th July 2005 were not just an attack on a city, they were an attack on people. When the dust settled, the human cost was devastating. A total of 52 innocent people lost their lives that day. They were mothers, fathers, sons and daughters. They came from all over the world, from different faiths and backgrounds, reflecting the incredible diversity of London itself. They were young people just starting their careers, and older people looking forward to retirement. Each one of them had a story, a family, and a future that was stolen from them in a moment of senseless violence. Beyond the 52 fatalities, more than 700 people were injured, many of them severely. Survivors were left with life-changing physical injuries, including burns, lost limbs, and damage to their sight and hearing. But, the scars were not just physical. The psychological trauma for those who lived through the attacks was immense and long-lasting. Many have battled with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression for years. They carry the memory of what they saw, heard, and felt that day. Their lives were forever altered, and honestly, their courage in rebuilding their lives is a powerful part of the 7/7 story. The impact rippled outwards, touching thousands of families, friends, and colleagues. For every person killed or injured, there was a network of loved ones whose worlds were turned upside down. They had to endure the agonizing wait for news, followed by the devastating confirmation of their loss. They have had to live with the empty space left behind by those they loved. The grief and pain for these families did not end on July 7th, 2005. For them, it is a constant presence, a wound that never fully heals. Their quiet dignity and strength over the past 20 years have been truly remarkable. It's so important to remember that behind the stark numbers are real human beings. People like Miriam Hyman, a 31-year-old picture editor who was on the bus in Tavistock Square. Or Shahara Islam, a 20-year-old bank cashier from East London killed in the Aldgate explosion. Or Philip Russell, a 28-year-old finance worker from London who died on the Piccadilly line train. These are just 3 of the 52 lives cut short. When we talk about 7/7, we are talking about them. We are remembering their stories and honoring the lives they should have been able to live. 20 years on, the most important duty we have is to remember the 52 people who were killed. It is vital that they are not forgotten, that they do not simply become a statistic in a history book. Their names are a roll call of the vibrant, multicultural city that the terrorists tried so hard to attack. They came from Poland, Italy, France, Mauritius, New Zealand, and many other countries, as well as from all corners of the UK. They were Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, Sikh, and of no faith. They represented the very best of London, and we honour them by remembering who they were. Every year on the anniversary, and especially today on the 20th anniversary, the city pauses to remember. This morning, a memorial service was held at St. Paul's Cathedral. It was a solemn and moving event, attended by survivors, the families of the victims, emergency responders, and national leaders like Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and London Mayor Sadiq Khan. During the service, a powerful and heartbreaking moment occurred when survivors of the attacks stood up and read out the names of the 52 victims, one by one. It's a simple act, but it ensures that each individual life is recognized and mourned. A permanent memorial stands in Hyde Park, one of London's largest green spaces. It's a quiet, dignified place for reflection. The memorial consists of 52 stainless steel pillars, or stelae, each one standing over 3 meters tall. Each pillar uniquely represents one of the 52 victims, and they are grouped together in 4 clusters, reflecting the locations of the 4 attacks. It's a powerful piece of design. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It invites you to walk among the pillars and reflect on the individual lives lost. This morning at 8:50 a.m., the exact time of the first blast, Wreaths were laid here in a silent tribute. The families of the victims have found different ways to keep the memory of their loved ones alive. Some have set up charities and foundations in their names, doing positive work to counter the hatred that caused their deaths. For example, the Miriam Hyman Memorial Trust, set up in memory of the picture editor killed on the bus, works to promote education and understanding among young people. These initiatives create a positive legacy, turning a story of devastating loss into one of hope and progress. It is a testament to the human spirit's ability to create light out of the darkest of moments. In the immediate aftermath of the attacks, the terrorists' goal was clear: to spread fear and to divide communities. They wanted Londoners to turn on each other, to let suspicion and hatred replace the city's open and tolerant spirit, but they failed. In fact, they achieved the opposite. In the days, weeks and months that followed 7/7, London showed its true character. The city responded not with widespread anger and division, but with a remarkable sense of unity and resilience. People from all backgrounds came together to support one another and to stand defiant against terrorism. One of the most powerful symbols of this unity was the "We Are Not Afraid" campaign. It started spontaneously, with ordinary people creating posters and sharing images online with this simple, powerful message. It was a grassroots movement that captured the mood of the city. It said that while London was grieving, it would not be intimidated. It was a declaration that the city's residents would not allow fear to change their way of life or their relationships with their neighbours. This spirit was visible everywhere, from floral tributes left at the blast sites to messages of solidarity shared across communities. The phrase "London United" became a reality. Faith leaders from Christian, Muslim, Jewish and other communities stood side by side to condemn the attacks and call for calm and solidarity. They made it clear that these acts of terror were a perversion of Islam and did not represent the vast majority of British Muslims. This was incredibly important in preventing a backlash against the Muslim community. Ordinary Londoners followed their lead, showing small acts of kindness and support to each other, reinforcing the idea that the city's diversity was its strength, not a weakness. This resilience was not just a fleeting emotional response. It has become an enduring part of London's identity. The city proved that it could absorb a terrible blow and emerge stronger and more united. The attacks of 7/7 did leave a scar, but it is a scar that reminds us of our capacity for compassion and solidarity in the face of adversity. This spirit of defiance and togetherness is perhaps the most important legacy of 7/7. It is the ultimate rejection of the hateful ideology that drove the bombers and a powerful lesson for all future generations. Now, 2 decades later, how does a city continue to remember an event like 7/7? For those who were directly affected, the survivors and the families of the victims, the memory is a constant companion, but for the city as a whole, remembrance is an active choice. It is something we must do consciously to ensure the lessons of that day are not lost to time. The annual memorials, like the ones held today, are a vital part of this process. They provide a formal space for the public to come together, to mourn, to reflect, and to show solidarity with those who lost so much. The commemoration events serve several important purposes. Firstly, they honor the victims. By reading their names and laying wreaths, we reaffirm their place in our city's history and our hearts. Secondly, they provide a focal point for survivors and bereaved families. For many, these gatherings are a source of comfort and a chance to connect with others who share their unique experience of loss and trauma. It's a community forged in tragedy, but one that provides immense support. It shows them that they are not alone and that the city has not forgotten their pain. For younger generations like many of you reading this, these commemorations are also a form of education. You may not have your own memories of 7/7, so learning about it through these public acts of remembrance is crucial. It helps you to understand a pivotal moment in recent British history and its lasting impact on society. It's a chance to hear the stories of survivors, to understand the human cost of terrorism, and to appreciate the importance of the values, like tolerance, unity and resilience, that the city championed in response. It connects you to your city's story. Ultimately, remembering 7/7 is about reaffirming our commitment to a better future. It's a reminder of what is at stake when hatred and extremism are allowed to grow. The annual services, the Hyde Park Memorial, and the charitable work done in the victims' names all serve to reinforce a positive message. They remind us that even in the face of the worst of humanity, the best of humanity can shine through. By continuing to remember, we send a clear message that we will always choose unity over division, hope over fear, and love over hate. As we mark the 20th anniversary of the 7/7 London bombings, it is natural to feel a deep sense of sadness for the lives that were lost and the families that were shattered. The events of that day were a brutal attack on innocent people and on the very fabric of our society. But as we have explored, the story of 7/7 is not just one of tragedy. It is also a powerful story of courage, compassion, and an unbreakable human spirit. It is a story of how a city, when tested in the most horrific way, chose unity over division and refused to be defined by fear. For those of you born after 2005, this might all feel like a distant historical event, but its lessons are more relevant today than ever. We live in a world where divisive rhetoric and extremism can spread rapidly online, and where it is easy for people to become isolated in their own digital bubbles. The story of 7/7 is a stark reminder of where that path can lead. It teaches us about the critical importance of dialogue, empathy, and understanding. It shows us that we have a shared responsibility to challenge hatred and to stand up for the diverse, tolerant communities we want to live in. Remembering is not about living in the past. It is about learning from it to build a better present and a safer future. By remembering the 52 innocent victims, we honor their humanity and affirm the value of every single life. By remembering the bravery of the first responders and the kindness of ordinary strangers, we are reminded of the good that people are capable of, even in the darkest of times. And by remembering the way London came together, we are reminded that our diversity is our greatest strength and that we are always stronger together than we are apart. So, as you go about your day today, take a moment to think about what happened on this date 20 years ago. Think about the 52 people who never made it home. Think about the survivors who still live with the scars. And think about the spirit of a city that refused to be broken. The legacy of 7/7 is not the fear the terrorists wanted to create. The true legacy is the enduring message of resilience and unity. It is our collective promise to never forget and to always work towards a world where such an atrocity can never happen again.